Coming up on Network Africa, more than 90 Kenyan schoolgirls hit by unknown illness. They've been hospitalized. Ethiopian embassy in Sudan's capital Khartoum damaged in an attack. Plus, Tunisia opposition leader Abiy Morsi arrested for unknown reasons. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers in Lagos. Today we begin in Kenya, where more than 90 girls from Irigi Girls High School have been rushed to the hospital after developing an unidentified illness. Students from the girls' school located in the west of the country had difficulty walking and symptoms of knee pain. A senior official in the Ministry of Education who visited the school assured worried parents that the situation is under control. Health authorities who are investigating the strange occurrence have obtained blood, urine and stool samples from the ill students and sent them off to laboratories in Kisumu, a neighboring city, and the capital, Nairobi. They expect conclusive results sometime today. We're joined by Kenyan journalist Cyrus Mbati, who is speaking from Nairobi. Hello, Cyrus. I will connect with Cyrus in a bit. Let's move on to other stories across the continent. Ethiopia's embassy in Khartoum has come under attack from heavy weaponry amidst the lingering conflict in Sudan. The Ethiopian ambassador to Sudan confirmed the attack, adding that no casualties were reported from Tuesday's onslaught. However, the embassy is partially damaged. The Sudanese paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, which has been fighting the army since April, has blamed the military for the attack, but the Sudanese army has not made any comments as yet. More than 5,000 people have died in the conflict and 5 million others displaced by it. The leader of one of Tunisia's main opposition parties, the Parti d'Historien Libre, Abiy Morsi, has been arrested. Ms. Morsi was arrested outside the presidential palace in Carthage, where she had come to lodge appeals against presidential decrees. In a video post on the party's Facebook page, the opposition leader complained that the office of the president had refused to accept her appeal and to give her acknowledgement of receipt. PDL's lawyer, Nufel Bouden, says the reasons for Ms. Morsi's arrest remain unknown. In statements to the Tunisian media, party members denounced the arrest as a kidnapping. Ms. Morsi, a former MP, is a fierce opponent of President Kais Saied, as well as the Islamist movement. She is a supporter of late President Zine bin Ali, who was overthrown in 2011 during the first Arab uprising. A South African minister and 3 other MPs from the ruling African National Congress Party have been cleared of corruption by a parliamentary committee. Employment and Labour Minister Tulas Nkesi and MPs Cedric Frolic and Msembisi Ziwani and Winnie Ngwenya were implicated following an inquiry into allegations of large-scale corruption, commonly known as state capture, under former President Jacob Zuma. The Zondo Commission, named after its chairperson, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, revealed widespread graft involving state-owned entities in an inquiry that ran between 2018 to 2022. No one has been convicted in a criminal trial so far. Still in South Africa, another hefty fuel price increase has hit South African motorists. From Wednesday, consumers will pay between R1.08 and R1.14 more for petrol at the pumps. Diesel is to increase by between R1.93 and R1.96 a litre. Meanwhile, the South African Federation of Trade Unions is concerned that this 8th consecutive increase is especially petrol and diesel will worsen the cost of living and affect the working class negatively.
The latest increases means that between October and January 2023, the prices of unleaded petrol 93 have increased by R4.12, unleaded petrol 95 by R4.28, whilst diesel and illuminating paraffin have increased by R1.87 and R3.67 respectively. These price increases will affect workers and the unemployed in at least three main ways. That is, elevating costs of fuel for vehicle owners, causing road transport fare to rise, and causing prices of other goods to also increase. The lack of reliable and efficient public transport in this country has led to an increase in the number of people owning private vehicles. The reliance on private vehicles as working people flee for comfortable rides have even led to them organizing lift clubs to work. Lift clubs are an improvisation by private vehicle owners to cut fuel costs and still retain the comfort that comes with riding privately.
Peacekeepers from the UN mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, MONUSCO, have launched a joint operation with Congolese armed forces against the armed group known as Codeco. Briefing journalists in New York, spokesperson for the Secretary General, Stéphane Dujarric, explained that the action comes in response to recent attacks against civilians and the presence of Codeco members in the area.
Quick update from our peacekeeping colleagues in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They tell us that the UN peacekeepers on the ground have launched a joint operation with the Congolese armed forces against the armed group known as Codeco. The operation is taking place in the Jugu territory in the province of Ituri and comes in response to recent attacks against civilians and the presence of Codeco members in the area, including most recently near the Lala camp for displaced persons, which is about 9 kilometers southeast of Jugu. On that occasion, peacekeepers were deployed. They fired warning shots as they observed Codeco members approaching the site and forcing them to withdraw. Peacekeepers are continuing to patrol the area to protect civilians and deter armed groups, including physical protection for more than 100,000 men, women, and children who've been displaced in 4 temporary bases in the Jugu territory.
As South Sudan races to bring a close to its democratic transition by holding its first ever national elections in December 2024, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Dr. Albino Ball, feels youth participation in peacemaking and politics is vital. Dr. Ball was speaking at a forum hosted jointly by UNMISS and the South Sudan Human Rights Commission, co-chaired by the South Sudan Youth Organizations Coalition, where participants discussed how to strengthen youth participation for free, fair, and transparently conducted elections. The event was part of the UN Peacekeeping Mission's participation in the global 75-day countdown to Human Rights Day, as 2023 marks the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
This country cannot be led by the opinion of one person. We must differ, but we have to agree that all of us are South Sudanese, regardless of your affiliation, regardless of your color, regardless of your region. This is what we want as a young people. So I want to appreciate those who have aired out their views. It's very important. And this is the democracy that we want.
As young people, we are going to determine the outcome of election in terms of making sure peace is the agenda. I call upon each one of you to take this agenda at this avenue, that it is up to young people, the 73% of South Sudan population, that South Sudan is going to be victorious in the first election that is going to be held next year in December. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you as young people that the civic engagement, the political space, becoming the leaders and becoming the change makers is each one of you role.
Wanted the youth to know their importance in nation building, the different roles that they can play. Instead of youth sitting down to complain about issues of unemployment and how they want to be brought into these places, is how they can tap into their passions and how they can contribute to nation building in this country.
But one thing I can assure you is always is ready, willing and able to assist. We report.
And the United Nations World Food Programme is warning that a hunger emergency is looming on the border between South Sudan and Sudan as families fleeing fighting in Sudan continue to cross the border every day. New data gathered by the WFP shows that among the nearly 300,000 people who have arrived in South Sudan in the last 5 months, 1 in 5 children is malnourished. And 90% of families say they are going several days without eating.
Since I've been here, I have seen the condition of people deteriorating rapidly, those that are coming across the border as the conflict continues. Really, to see a malnourished child in a mother's arms, not knowing whether that child is actually going to survive the night or not is incredibly confronting. And that's what the UN is here trying to support, that make sure that we are providing that life-saving assistance so people can survive not only their entry but also their onward journeys into South Sudan.
Let's bring you our top story. As we reported earlier from Kenya, that's more than 90 girls from Erigi Girls High School have been rushed to hospital after developing some strange illness. It has to do with their knees and some problems with walking. Samples have been taken from the girls and sent to several labs in the capital and, of course, other places. Let's get more on this. We're joined by Kenyan journalist Cyrus Mbati, who's speaking from Nairobi. Hello, Cyrus. Quickly, could you tell us more about the situation with the girls?
So the latest information we have is that the school has been closed today as the authorities investigate the cause or the source of this problem. It's more of a kind of a cholera, which there's an outbreak, because the preliminary findings show that it was electrolyte, which is a form of fluids in the body. That's why they had difficulty walking around.
Are the results of the test out yet, or are there any initial ideas of what might be wrong with them?
The preliminary results show that it was a form of a condition where the body lacks fluids. It's a doctor I talked to this. He said that it's called electrolyte, whereby a body lacks fluids, and the cause where the students are unable to walk. Because all of them were exhibiting a kind of form of similar symptoms, which is being unable to walk around, and they were emaciated, they were not eating. So we suspect it was that food or water which they took in the school.
And then, do you have any idea, is there any idea from the authorities of what might have caused such symptoms in the girls? I know that tests have been taken, investigations are ongoing, but is there any, diagnosis, any reason to believe that this could be, what is causing this kind of illness?
What I'm saying, they suspect dirty water or food in the area, because such a problem has been reported in the same region, whereby one student died in a neighboring school. So there are suspicions that the similar problem is the water carrying the neighboring school, the regional girls. So they decided to send away the students home for a week or so as they clean the area and do further investigation. In fact, the Minister for Education is going to the area now today to talk to the parents and the guardians so that they can calm down the situation, because it was so tense. The parents were concerned about their children rather. So everyone is suspecting that it will be either diarrhea or cholera, water which is dirty, or food. That's something of the sort.
And, I'm sure parents are worried. Almost 100 girls affected. Have the authorities given any access, to the girls? Have their parents or guardians been able to see them?
Yeah. Since yesterday, the parents were rushing to hospital. Of course, because there's suspicion of cholera, because when you have a case of cholera, you have to do something of the isolation. So the parents were allowed to kind of get in touch with their children. And today, when the schools were closed, that's when they were given instructions what to do, because they were told that they have to keep away the distance from their children to give them time to heal. So the parents are aware of what's happening and they have been allowed to access their students.
All right, Cyrus, thank you for that update. We'll keep in touch to check on with the girls as we continue to monitor the situation in Kenya with the schoolgirls.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for having the show.
And when we come back after break, resigned Haitians accept Kenyan-led UN-backed foreign mission if it brings security to their country. Stay with us for more. Welcome back. Haitians taking shelter in refugee camps for victims of gang wars have shown reluctant acceptance of the United Nations-backed foreign security mission to fight violent gangs in the country. Earlier in the week, the United Nations Security Council authorized a foreign security mission led by Kenya to Haiti. This comes a year after the Haitians asked for help to fight violent gangs that have largely overrun its capital, Port-au-Prince. Haitians have been wary of an armed UN presence since 2010, when UN peacekeepers dumped infected sewage into a river, after which more than 9,000 people died of cholera out of approximately 800,000 who fell ill with the disease. Kenya stepped forward in July with a pledge of 1,000 police, followed by the Bahamas, which committed to sending 150 people as volunteers. In the Niger Republic, flags flew at half-mast in honor of 29 soldiers who were struck by armed insurgents at the country's border with Mali. Some civilians offered condolences for the fallen soldiers, but the overriding fear is that the new government might not be able to curb insecurity in the country. The Defense Ministry revealed that the soldiers were returning from operations against the militants when they were targeted by over 100 assailants in vehicles and on motorbikes using explosive devices and suicide bombers. Well, many are struggling to come to terms with their loss after cemetery workers in eastern Congo unloaded dozens of coffins at the final resting place for victims of one of the deadliest crackdowns on protests in recent local memory. According to a military prosecutor, at least 56 people were killed on August 30 after Congolese soldiers in the city of Goma opened fire on protesters ahead of a demonstration against the presence of UN peacekeepers. Just this week, a military court sentenced some of those accused of orchestrating the bloodshed, while the government paid for burials and offered compensation to the grieving and angry families of victims. Decades of conflict between the army and rebel groups has destabilized eastern Congo, and civilians rarely see justice for the abuses committed by both sides. The new military governor of eastern North Kivu province, Major General Peter Sirimwani, is cautioning that the army needs to work harder to build people's trust. And we close the program here in Nigeria, where the Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Mr. Oluyinka Olumide, has warned traders along the Red Line rail corridor to vacate the area or face the full wrath of the law. Mr. Olumide made this comment when he carried out an enforcement exercise with the state's building control agency to prevent accidents when the Red Line operation commences.
It's another demolition exercise carried out by the Lagos State Building Control Agency and the newly appointed Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Mr. Oluyinka Olumide, General Manager of LASCA, Mr. Gbola Haoki, and Special Advisor on Aegis and Urban Planning, Mr. Olajide Babatunde, are all here to monitor the enforcement exercise. The operation kicks off from Alagbado along the Red Line rail corridor, already taken over by commercial activities. The team is here with some security operatives to clear all forms of encroachment that may affect rail operations. Some residents try to salvage their belongings before they are completely destroyed. Next stop is the Iju-Ishaga area of Lagos, where structures close to the rail tracks were removed.
The rate that is coming is a very fast train, and it's not advisable for human pedestrians all along the corridor, basically for their life. Life is very more important to the state. And on that regard, we have to clear up all that corridor. It's going to be a continuous exercise because we know the nature of our people, how they behave. So almost every two days, we'll continue to clean up this corridor from the beginning up to the end along the red line. People must desist from putting up any structures along this corridor.
This exercise being carried out days after Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu gave a marching order for residents to stop all forms of commercial activities along the rail corridor.
We've told some people that are selling, that are walking on the rail corridor, that it will be zero tolerance to ensure that we can preserve intruders on the rail corridor.
The enforcement operation continues at Agege, Mushin, Yaba, and Ebute-Metta. The Lagos State Building Control Agency says it's not targeted at anyone in particular, but to ensure safety of residents, especially those encroaching on the rail tracks.
That's Network Africa today. Thank you for watching. I'm Jokia Rogers.